Hi everybody, and thanks for viewing this YouTube fly tying tutorial. I have a really great technique that I'd like to share with all of you today. This is a technique used for tying parachute flies. I absolutely love to tie and fish parachute flies, only second up to more than likely comparadons when it comes to dry flies. This technique I'm going to show you today has been made popular by the likes of Chauncy Lively and Christie. Chauncy used to use this whenever he would tie some of his famous sulfur dry flies. He would tie it with this parachute underneath the hook shank and these beautiful cut wings on top. Whereas Christie has tied it with more of an emerger. If you Google his name and the words reversed parachute, you'll find some videos of him tying this fly right now on the internet because he does a really great job with a couple of the patterns. So for starters, I'm not going to tie the exact pattern. I'm just going to go through the technique. I grab a little bit of monofilament. By little, I mean about 10 inches. I use anywhere between 4 and 6 pound test strength. I'm using 6 today, more so you can see it, though I'm not really shy when it comes to the weight of this tippet material. I'm going to lock it in with the tag end extending out past the eye of the hook. Now I'm not going to really take my time in securing everything near the back of the hook. I'm just going to go through real quick just to make sure it's locked down. But let's kind of work under the assumption that we're tying a dry fly. We've already tied on our tail, we've tied on our body, and we're moving up towards the thorax. So let's work under that assumption. When I get up to the thorax, I don't tie in the thorax right away. Instead, I skip that section and I move up towards this monofilament. Once I get near the monofilament, I kind of pull it tight and I create a small loop. By a small loop, I'm talking about 3 inches high. Then I lock in that front section of monofilament. So again, the tag ends going out past the eye. I'm going to lock it in with about 5 wraps. I don't have to do anything more than that. Let me zoom out so you have an idea of what's going on here. Here's my tag end. Here's my little loop. Next time I grab a hackle. I have a nice little light grizzly saddle hackle here. I'm just going to strip off some of these little fibers. I'm going to lock that in right at the base of this loop. Let me trim away that butt. After I have about 5 wraps locking it in, I'm going to pull the loop forward. I'm going to put just 1 wrap in between the loop and the hackle. I really want to make sure I have that locked in. Then I'm going to lift the hackle straight up and move back towards my thorax. Okay, so I kind of have everything now out of the way. Now I'm actually going to cut this tag in. It's getting a little long there. All right. So now we're at the point where, let's say we're going to finish our thorax. I have a little bit of pale olive dubbing here from the Delaware River Club. It's a neat little shop up on the Delaware River. I used to guide on the Delaware. Now my buddy and I, my buddy Don and I, make a yearly trip out there to catch some of those big fish. We do really well. We really enjoy it, but we really love stopping at this DRC shop. They have a neat little shop, some good guys that work there, and this dubbing they have is really excellent dubbing. I kind of look forward to going there and buying it every year. All right, so let's just dub a little bit on our thorax. So I'm just working my way around this post and up towards the eye of the hook. And once I get up to the eye, I'm just going to put a couple wraps underneath that tag end, get a half hitch to make sure everything's secure, examine it, make sure I haven't missed any spots. Let's get a nice little whip finish in here. All right, then you can get your thread out of there. All right, now all we're left with is our loop, our tag end, and our hackle. Now I zoom back in so you can get an idea of how I'm going to work all this. So for our tackle, what we're going to do is we're going to wrap 2 wraps around the base of the loop. Then we're going to start wrapping up one of the sides of the monofilament that's in the loop. So here I go. There's 1 around the base, 2nd around the base. Then I hold on to my hackle. I'm going to place it inside the loop. 1. There's 1 wrap. Let's do it 2, I'm going to make one more. 3. Now, if you look, I'm not being too careful with making sure it's looped correctly. Instead, I just have those 3 turns in the loop. What I'm going to do is just pull the hackle a little bit, and as I pull it, pull the tip of the hackle, I'm going to push down on these hackle fibers and push them down that monofilament loop. Now at this point, I'll zoom in so you can see everything. If you're doing this at home and it looks ugly, then you're probably doing it the right way, because it always seems like this is just absolutely ugliness until I pull this tag end. So when I start pulling this tag end, nice and slow, I'm going to make sure my hackle is also, I'm holding on to that pretty firm. And as I start pulling this monofilament, you'll see your hackle will just almost magically materialize like a parachute. Then when I let go of the tip of this, this saddle hackle, you can see exactly where you need to trim it off. I'm just going to pull the monofilament again to make sure it's secure. I'm going to kind of stretch down into this hackle. I don't want to cut all the tips of anything. I might cut out the center. Then I might grab onto my monofilament and do the same thing. Pull it again and trim it away. Let me get some of my dubbing out of there. Don't want all those little fibers exposed. And then I will show you our finished product. So here it is. This is our parachute. If you look at it from the top, it looks pretty much like any other parachute that you've tied in the past, except we don't have a post. That post is our monofilament post, which has magically disappeared. This is a very, very secure way of placing in a parachute. From what I've read on the internet, Roy Christie is known to tie his fly, then stomp on it with his cowboy boots to show just how secure that parachute post is. I can tell you, I've fished these for years and I've never had a problem with them coming out. Now, Roy will actually tie his parachute post back by the bend of the hook, and he'll tie it in that way so it looks a little bit more like an emerger. Whereas Chauncy Lively, he would have tied his in. I'm just going to flip this a little bit. Now, he wouldn't have, I don't think he would have rotated that way, but I'm just going to rotate it to give you an idea of what Chauncy would have done. Chauncy would have tied his normal body, his tail's back, back in the normal spot, his body, and then he had a couple cut wings he would tie up here. Then he would have this hackle underneath, and it would look extremely realistic, just like the salt for dry fly that he was attempting to imitate. So if you Google Chauncy Lively and parachute, you'll see a pattern that will have its hackle underneath like this. If you've ever wondered how he's done that, I have just shown you how. So to wrap up this video, I'm going to kind of loop this back around, because I typically will fish the parachute with the parachute on top. You can see me just stroking all the fibers. They are not coming loose at all by any means. They are really in there tight, just the way I like it. In fact, I can still see my hackle, the stem of the hackle. I may trim that piece off right there just to make it look a little bit better, but that's just for me. If I was fishing this and I wasn't making a video of it, I probably wouldn't do that at all. But since this is a video, I will for your sake. Well, with that said, I hope you enjoyed this little technique for creating a parachute for your dry flies. I really encourage you to check it out. If you know the person who actually created or came up with this style, please let me know, because I am not aware of that individual, but I'd love to give him or her credit. So with that said, thanks for viewing this YouTube fly tying tutorial. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them directly on this YouTube page, or as always, you can email me at tcammisa@gmail.com. Thanks everybody for viewing this YouTube fly tying tutorial.